Hey everyone, Tactics here with my first set of Mythic boss guides, where in this video, we're going to actually be taking a look at the first 4 bosses in Nerub-ar Palace, largely because they're not really too different, both strategically and mechanically, from their heroic versions, and their tuning is actually relatively low, so they're probably going to be fairly accessible to most groups. Speaking of the heroic versions, though, I'm not going to spend much time, if any, going through those mechanics specifically. Just going to focus on Mythic and what was changed, so make sure you do know those things before getting into these guides. I'll be putting out individual boss guides on all of the other Mythic bosses in this tier from here on out, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you want to see those. And otherwise, let's get started here with the first boss in Ulgrax. In terms of changes, one of the big ones is the webs now stun. They no longer root, so things like freedom effects don't work on them. You need to use immunities or the poison circles to actually clear them. Because of this, we pull the boss towards the edge of the room here, just to make it a little bit easier to kind of clear this path. Have a little bit more clustered because it's all like a bit more dense up there. You can see the poison, you can clear a ton of these web puddles. And then we have things like Hunter Turtle available, Rogue Cloak, Paladin Bubble available in case we need to clear. And I believe a lot of the times what we'll do is we'll hold those clears for after the intermission, kind of see where we are, move the boss slightly along the edge of the room if we need to, if there's like a clear spot nearby. Otherwise, we'll use one of those immunities to kind of clear up the area that we're currently at, wherever the boss spawns, just to make our life a little bit easier. Now, the other main mechanic change here is that the soak effect now puts a debuff on you, so you can't soak twice in a row. So you need to split your raid in half and have 10 people soak the first time for the Kinderverse contest and 10 people soak the second time. You can see we have our groups here on the bottom left of my screen in our note. Just 10 and 10 soak, that's all you need for that. And that is it. Make sure you have speeds assigned to this as well. You see the pull-in is quite close. You can see how close some people are actually getting here to getting one shot by the boss. So make sure you are actively running away from the boss, unless you're like a DK with disadvantage or something like that. Of course, speeds are needed. Running away from the boss is needed, so make sure you are doing that. And then of course, we made it soak all the way back here, so give yourself enough space to not get pulled under the boss. Outside of that, I believe the main change then, the only other change then rather, is in the intermission phase, where there's a new ad type and one more of the soaks. Running away, we have the wind rush going off there, and soak ends. Even I got pretty close to getting eaten by the boss. And you can notice that actually I was tanking the boss. You can tank the boss or not be tanking the boss and get this soak. It doesn't really matter. The boss doesn't move during that. Hulking crash is a knockback. Since you are being played on the edge, beware also of the puddles and getting knocked into them. Make sure you instantly break people out. Use these should be the priority. If anyone does get netted, that should be the priority. There's also sometimes invisible swirlies, I think we noticed. And also, if someone touches one of these nets, the explosion radius for other people that get stunned is bigger than this. So more people, like if someone's standing here, for example, and a person touched this, they would also be stunned, even though they're not touching the actual web puddle. So be aware of that. It's a bigger explosion and stun radius than the actual detonation radius. So boss goes, same rules here as in heroic. These eggs spawn the ads. That means that the boss is going to spawn here. See, we ping it. The boss is going to spawn somewhere in this area. My mouse is circling. And so because of that, we're going to kind of hang out in this area, avoiding the charges, of course. Let the ads funnel to us. That's going to make the intermission phase, or when the boss comes up and starts casting his AoE, much quicker. So I'm just getting Moonfire to get some initial threat on the ads. The bile soaked spawn, you can see, big guy, and that guy's going to be doing group damage. That's literally the only difference. Honestly, it's not too much. This is probably where you want to put all your healing CDs, is this phase. You can see in phase 1, we really weren't taking that much damage. This phase is where it starts to get a little bit, especially with the movement. So if you need to put healing CDs somewhere on this boss fight, it would probably be in this phase. You can see, of course, as expected, the boss comes up right here. We're finishing off these ads, and then it's just everyone starts chain feeding the boss. Like you can see here, going in, I'm instantly already feeding the boss, still taking some ads. Watch these swirly spawns. You can see all it takes is one person to get hit here by these swirlies. And because of, like we talked about, that detonation is bigger, one person gets hit and all of a sudden we have like 4 people stunned. right? So be careful. Luckily, it's not too bad because we're already AoEing here, so it's not the end of the world. You just break them out relatively quickly, but you can see I'm very careful. There's a lot of circles, and someone else touches, and 4 more people get stunned. So be careful. Be very, very, very careful. But as you can see, it's not a huge deal. This is probably the best time for it to happen because, you know, other people can keep feeding the boss, and it's not the end of the world. Because of that, all the netting here is like pretty clear, so it's not a huge deal. And so what we're going to see is we're not actually going to use too many immunities. We just have moving over slightly to the actual clear area, and then it's kind of chill. We have the poison as needed. We'll have immunities as needed here, and that can be kind of like an on the fly thing. You can see there the AMS going out, clearing a couple things. That works as well. Just beware, if AMS breaks, you will get stunned, so don't break too many of them with AMS. And we have some poison clears, etc., just clearing the path here of the soak, so the people that are soaking don't get hit. And then the boss here just kind of repeats this. You can go, I think you can go pretty long on this boss fight, so just kind of repeating there over and over and over again until you get the boss down. First boss done. Let's go to Mythic Bloodbound Horror. In this one, oh, I'm halfway through the video. There we go. So this one, you really want to make sure you are splitting your groups with a good amount of damage in each. You can look at timings here in class timings. I think we did, though once you get more gear, that's going to be kind of irrelevant, right? The first soak happens almost instantly, and then from there, the soaks are, or the ads rather, are 1 minute apart. So each group's ad sets are 2 minutes apart, so you can kind of put your groups together accordingly so you have damage each time. We are right on top of our ads, so, you know, we have assigned groups. Some people would do like, oh, if the ad spawned on the other side, we wouldn't bother moving. Group 2 would go, but because of how our damage was assigned, we just made sure we had hard groups. Group 1 first, Group 2 second. Going around top of the ads, this is the Mythic mechanic here. Basically just circles that go off on the entire raid, so you just need to spread out for them. That's pretty much the entire Mythic mechanic. The other thing notable on Mythic is that there is one additional caster ad that spawns right off the top. So you can see we already have the extra caster ad over here. We got pretty lucky with this spawn. It's actually relatively close. We're also in Lust and all CDs. So this set is actually just going to melt. So maybe a bad we'll control. We control the next set for that, but make sure Harbingers are the priority. This Watcher is completely irrelevant. All damage should be going into Harbingers. The other thing is that you remember there's that far Harbinger. You can see Ring of Frost. So you always want to send or have at least one person in each group that is going to go over and make sure the far Harbinger gets CC'd. Hunters are really good for that with, you know, they got tar traps, they got bindings, they got all that, they got the knock as well. Mages are really good at that. Ring of Frost, they've got the blast wave knock as well. Druids are really good at that. Typhoon, Ursals, right? So one of those 3 classes that isn't a tank, of course, because the tank has to be over here, in each group to make sure that they can handle the CC of the far ad, especially if this guy is far, right? Because this guy can spawn on the opposite side of the room, as an example, and I think that does happen on one of our things. So make sure one person in each group is assigned to do that. And again, you're focusing the Harbingers here. The Watchers are relevant. As soon as the 2 Harbingers and the Blood Horrors are dead, you should be immediately moving to the next Harbinger. And this is just a product of Bloodlust, I think, here, where we weren't really worried about or why the tank ad died so quickly. Otherwise, the Harbinger should be the priority. And probably, honestly, this one we cut very close. I think people didn't swap fast enough to that ad. We end up getting it, and I think there's one little ad alive here, and this could be problematic. I think he does go in. It's not the end of the world, but try and avoid that. And then we have the next group going, etc. I can show you the second ad group with some poor spawns potentially. So you have the runaway. And then you have the ad group coming. Yeah, here it is. It's on the direct opposite side of the map here. So we're going to come here. We have the spread into our cone. We're going to go in downstairs. Cone goes out. And our mage is just going to absolutely book it across the room. You can see him on the mini map. He's going way over there to deal with those. Everyone is focusing the Harbinger ad here. Look how fast they're dying. As soon as this Harbinger dies, we are gone. We are leaving. We have this beam blocking us. Probably could have been a little bit closer, but that's the other thing too, is when you're focusing these beams, it's the same rule as on Heroic. I can show you the upstairs. So here's the beams on the Heroic. I know they're starting here. There's the other ad for them, again, directly across from each other. So because of this, I know they have way more people on this side. You want to aim this depending on where their damage is at. So the beams are coming in 10 seconds, right? So I kind of want these to be relatively even. I have to eat some swirlies because of this, so I pop a defensive and go through them. But basically, I'm okay to have the beam not quite be all the way through, so like this. So it's going to go through this ad a little bit because they aren't over there yet. Now they're running over there, and they have a clean path all the way to that guy without needing to wait. That's the goal of these beams. So it's kind of dependent on the spawns, but that's what you want to do. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. The damage on the boss here doesn't really matter. The boss will just die. You want to make sure you have damage on the ads enough to make sure they die and that the small ads don't get into the boss and that you kill all the ads down there before you get brought back up. That is the most important thing. So if you're holding damage to do that, that is a good thing. Do that and the boss will just die. Then we've got third boss, SIkran. Here we go. This boss hasn't changed too much. There's one main mechanic change, and that is the phase blades will now put like a little 8-yard circle around every single target of the player. And if you have another simulacrum in that 8-yard circle, you guys basically die. Is essentially how it is. The individual player, not the entire raid. That was a change they made. So you need to be 8 yards apart of each player. We have markers on the ground to kind of indicate that. Spread out a little bit. Boom, 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 boom. No one blew up. All the simulacrums are down, and the targets have a circle, so they can see a circle around them. So it's a little bit easier. I'm a tank. I'm never going to get targeted, so I can't see it. The other change in this fight is that the ability cadence is different than normal and heroic. So you can see our boss positioning here. We're in the middle, pointing all these guys. Boom, boom, boom. On normal and heroic, there would be a decimate. On mythic, there is a second phase blade. So we move down, we shift down a little bit, and then we create room for the next phase blade. So this is coming, phase blades in 10 seconds. There's the tank combo, of course, exact same, by the way. Just, you know, taunt after the expose. Second expose, rather. Second phase blades going out here. They're putting the clones right next to them. Again, they have circles so they can kind of know where they are. We have markers down as well. Boom, 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 boom. And then a decimate comes. And again, because of how Shattering Sweep, when that happens, it does a massive damage amp to anything it detonates. You want to make sure that you are hitting as many of these as humanly possible. And so we change the boss positioning here slightly right after this second phase blade to try and get 2 lines of the clones to allow the decimates to actually kill them all. So it's going to go out, boom. I think we missed a few. Yeah, we didn't quite get a good angle on these back ones. And so we have a few up here. We're going to get another decimate, don't worry. Now, after the first decimate, it's one more charge. So it's the third charge of the phase, and then the second decimate of the phase. And then it's going to be the sweep. So you only get 2 decimates for 3 charges here. So this is going to go out, going to get the next charge, boom, drop our new things. And then we're going to try and shoot, I believe, one of our decimates out this way to try and get the guys. Yeah, I think we got one of them, but this is a little bit spooky for us. And this is where if you ever do miss a clone, you can see we did get one of them over there at least. If you ever do miss a clone, it's not the end of the world. We actually got 2, so because we got 6 stacks. So there's only 1 clone up. This is peelable, it's fine. Shattering Sweep is going to do a lot of damage. You want to make sure that you have a stack position for Shattering Sweep, especially if you have any ads alive. And then you use CDs like Spirit Link, like AMZ, like Barrier. And this is where we're going to calm that because we have one of the guys alive. One of the clones is alive from that decimate. So we ping it, boom. Everyone's going to stack there. And we're going to drop a barrier on the ground, boom, and we're safe. I think we can even live 2 of the clones, potentially even 3 if you stack more CDs than that. But obviously, preferably, you don't want to do that, right? But you can recover from a mistake like that. It's not the end of the world. And then you just kind of continue like this around the room with that new ability cadence, right? It's going to go charge, it's going to go charge, then decimate, then it's going to go charge, decimate. So again, the positioning we've done is middle of the room, do the 2 charges after the second charge, pull it along to the edge so that you have a good angle to decimate all of the living clones. Then you pull it back to the middle to drop your next charge, and I can just fast forward. Next charge coming up in 10. Here's that second charge. You have the clones already up. I think this probably had some cleaves going off here. So this is what happens basically if you're within 8 yards of each other, a little too close. You blow up, you instantly detonate your clone, and then you take extra damage because you were cleaving. That's basically how it works. We're dropping another example of the charge here. Here it comes. Charge goes out. Bang, 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 bang. Again, I think we were a little cleaving there. Yeah, we had another cleave there. Move out. And then this is where the decimates would aim at these guys that are alive. Again, we were down 4 clones already in this phase because we did some cleaving. But again, it's not the end of the world. The DPS check on this boss fight is actually fairly lenient. We're actually going to kill it on this pull. And as you can see, we have 3 players dead with no battle reses right now. So that is kind of indicative of the DPS check on this fight. Now, when you run out of space, which you are going to do, on this bull anyways, because we have so many DPS hits. So we're going to fill this. We're going to hit this with a decimate. This is the last decimate of this phase, and then it's going to be the Shattering Sweep. So we have them on one edge, so we have enough room to run out of the Shattering Sweep here. See, boom, it's going off. We can all run out of it. We have the barrier. And now at this point, the goal is to just not cleave your charges and also never decimate them so you don't run out of space. And that gives you a minute and a half until the next shattering sweep, which is when you will just die because everything is up, but you don't lose any space. So you're going to see at this point, if you're ever stuck in the middle, what you want to do is you can see, we spread out. We want to put them on one edge of the room here on the charges. Bosses, pulling them to this side, drop all the charges on one side of the room here to keep them, safe away from players. And yeah, we had to, even an immunity go out into the puddle. Very, very good, adjustment there. If you have an immunity in this phase, you can drop that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to tank the boss now right beside these clones that we just did and drop more clones on the other side of the area, right? So we have a bunch of clones now on either side of us because the goal here is we're not going to detonate them. So the next charge comes out, the next clones go off to the opposite side of the arena. And then decimate happens, and this is the very, very important part. Decimates need to make sure they are not hitting the boss. So we come here and we want decimates to just point off into this area. So we have clones on either side of us, right? So the decimates just need to make sure they point. We did actually have some get hit, but ideally this adjustment is you don't hit any of these clones. Because we only hit ones far away from us, it's not the end of the world, right? It's actually livable and we actually have space, but could have been problematic for the next set of charges if we didn't have enough room. So ideally that last decimate, if you are doing it in the very center of the room, points off harmlessly to the side so you have space in the actual arena. But that is SIkran to the very, very, very end. Like I said, not too much changes here. Very light change on the simulacrum, which can result in easy deaths, but the ability cadence is the big adjustment. Then we have Rasha'nan. This one has a few more newer changes than the rest, but tuning wise, it's not too difficult. So right off the top here, Spinneret Strands. So this is the circle drop-offs, the web circles. The big difference now on Mythic is that after these players drop off their circles and one person breaks their strand, it tethers the four of them together, and you have basically this kill zone between them. And so how we handle that is we have all of these strands go to the same side. So boom, all of them are lining up on the one side, and they're all going to insta break. There's not enough damage, so you can just break. And this is this kill zone. So you see, there's this zone between them. And the goal, and basically, I think after 4 seconds, anyone in that zone that isn't the 4 tethered players just dies. So the goal here is to make sure, one, you need to make sure they have enough space in case the waves happen. There's overlaps later on in the fight where these waves come just after this. So you need to give them enough space. So whatever side they're on, which, for us was the right side here, the raid will need to be a little bit closer to the left side. And then they're just going to break their threads and stack up. Make this kill zone as small as possible. Boom, kill zone's over. They're safe to move. And that's how you always handle this mechanic. Just have them all go to one side, all move together and break their tethers, snap their tethers, stack up. When the kill zone's gone, then they're free to move. That is how you handle that mechanic. That's pretty much it. The infested spawns the same as normal. Just AoE them down. You can use AoE CCs and stuff like that to make it a little easier. Waves are now, you can see 3 of them. So there's 2 at an angle and 1 going straight back. So you basically need to make a safety triangle now. On Heroic, there were 2 on normal. I think there was just 1 on normal. Maybe there were 2 on normal as well. But instead of 2, there is now 3. So make sure you are making the safety triangle. And make sure you aren't moving too far such that you still actually hit these actual web puddles and make them down. This is the other new mechanic, actually, outside of the waves. There is... These webs aim at random players. It's a line attack at a random player. If you get hit by this, you are stunned in a cocoon that needs to be broken out, basically. So that is the other new mechanic. There are some pretty toxic overlaps with that mechanic with the add knockback, where it sends it out and then knocks you back right after it sends it out. So because it's based on player positioning, you can bait them in a decent spot. So just be aware of that. And otherwise, again, it's kind of like the first boss where it's not the end of the world if someone gets webbed. Just immediately swap to them and make sure that you break them out. This is the movement phase. This is very important. So this boss goes much faster now in this phase compared to Heroic and Normal. And so you can see we have a Warlock Gate pre-placed because we don't know which way the boss is going to go. The Warlock is going to do a quick adjustment now depending on the direction. You can see the boss ends up going the other direction. So you can see he immediately throws down a new gate as soon as he sees that. Boom, the slow people take the gate. The fast people are gone. We have 1 player assigned. It's our monk. You can see how fast he is compared to everyone else. That is going to instantly go and make sure he gets the kick. Wait as long as you can before getting the kick because there are so many people behind basically the entire raid. These are the 3 fastest people here, and then the entire raid is still behind us. So milk this kick as long as possible, because the soak does happen immediately after that, right? So very, very important you give people as much time as possible to actually get over here. Just make sure 1 person fast is assigned to go. Time spirals, very, very good here. Also speed. So I think we had the shaman speed totem assigned. That would go on top of like the end of the gate for people to go through. So that we went through the speed. Time spirals are very, very good. Like for me, I think it resets Tiger Dash, which I'm using here as a druid. Tiger Dash is insane for this. There we go. Get the kick. And now boss is going to spawn the circle here. You have a bit of time here, but you still need to be pretty fast, right? Like boom, some people almost missed it. You have to be very, very, very fast. And you can only gate every other movement, I believe. Yeah, because you can see here, the next position is going to be before your gate CD is up. So if you want to time spiral everyone, you need 2 evokers. Not mandatory by any means. You just need to be smarter with your speed without time spirals, that kind of thing. So just be aware of that. You see, again, we're pinging where all the webs are going to go. All the webs are going to go on the right side. And this is one of those overlaps I'm talking about where the waves happen right after. So they need to go in and they need to get clustered in for the waves. So they need to get quite close to us, which is why everyone else needs to make sure that they give them some space. And you can see they're as small as possible here. You can, like, they walked by someone basically without killing them. That is important, right? Get as close as possible. Make that kill zone as small as possible. The web person or the poison wall person goes that way. Everyone is safe. They have their own little stack spot there. The rest of the raid was more towards the left, giving them actual room to stack up without murdering anybody. Next position, again, just got to go fast here. You can see him already leaving. Tiger Dash. Our monk is going crazy. And we're waiting here for the actual acidic eruption. Late kick on it, giving people as much time as possible. This move was a little bit less than the first one, which is nice. But then you can also get in this situation here, right, where you're pretty clumped in with the poison beside you. And this is where Lockgate is super valuable, because Lockgate's going to be now back up for the next one. And that's why we do it on the odd ones, because it's much easier to get out with a Lockgate from here, especially once these Spinneret strands go and this area just starts filling with poison, all that stuff. It can be a lot easier. Yeah. Oh, this is one of the toxic overlaps, I think. Yeah. Be careful of these webs here. They happen very, very quick. Actually, it wasn't even toxic. I'm just slow. Let's go. They detonate very quickly. So you need to respect them and make sure you are actually moving immediately and giving them, enough space. Luckily, it's close to the boss, so you can get cleaved down here. And like I said, 2 people got stuck here. Literally nothing really bad happened. Just cleave them out quickly before any actual mechanic overlaps happen, and you're good. And you can see here, we're kind of trapped in with the webs here. Warlocks can see where they go. Boom, portals down. Everyone just gates out of this bad stuff. Just watch. Try not to do it into a puddle at the end, but again, it's not really the end of the world, assuming you have speed, and then quickly move out of it. And the fight just keeps repeating from here, right? You get that soak, put the webs to one side. Doesn't necessarily going to be the right side every time, potentially. If you need to do on the left side, for example, that is fine as well. The tank mechanic now happens twice back to back, as you can see there. So you need to taunt mid-cast. Make sure you are taunting mid-cast. It doesn't happen every time like that. In the first phase especially, sometimes it's a bit slower between them. But beyond the first phase, taunt immediately during the cast of the previous. The boss doesn't retarget during the cast. But it means if he does a back-to-back, then you are going to spread those debuffs out. It's not even the end of the world, though. If you get 2 on one tank, that happened a few times. You can do that. It's perfectly fine. But otherwise, just taunt mid-cast, and you'll get 1 on each. But there we have it, guys. That is the first 4 bosses on Mythic difficulty in Nerub-ar Palace. Hopefully, this does help you and your group out. And if it does, make sure to like and subscribe for more Mythic boss guides coming in the future. Plus, if you have any questions about these bosses that I didn't answer, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer those. Otherwise, shout out to my Patreons for being amazing, and I'll see everyone in the next video.